Welcome to a special edition of the Fanvestor Report. I'm your host, Jezlan Moyet. Fanvestor has been committed to covering the business of celebrity that fans want in on, and rumor has it, the entrepreneur is the new celebrity. Fanvestor is an innovative digital crowdfunding platform, think Star Engine meets E, where fans can support their favorite celebrities, fashion icons, media moguls, athletes, actors, etc., and get in on the action. They can participate through e-commerce auctions with perks and one-of-a-kind experiences. Accredited and non-accredited fans can invest in equity crowdfunding projects. But what exactly is equity crowdfunding? How is it being democratized, and what does it mean for those who dare to dream bigger? As a fellow entrepreneur and investor, I am so excited to be co-hosting Equity Crowdfunding Week, the largest conference of its kind. The event kicks off October 4th and is a 5-day educational event that will teach you how to invest in equity crowdfunding, launch a successful crowdfunding campaign, and raise your first $1 million through the crowd. Now is the opportunity to learn how to invest in the future you believe in and learn modern business skills from billion-dollar companies. It's an honor to host the conversation with our next featured guests. Joining us in studio today, we're welcoming Laurel Scott, the co-founder and COO of Startup Starter, and Darren Marble, serial entrepreneur, CEO of Issuance, and the executive producer of Going Public, a new series launching this month on Entrepreneur. Welcome back to the Fanvestor Report. I am so excited to be talking all things equity crowdfunding and Equity Crowdfunding Week. Thank you both for being with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Darren, it was an honor to be able to host this event with you and be a part of a conversation and an event that's truly impacting not only incredible founders and businesses, but I believe the entire future.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, talk about the mission you set up for this.
So there's this whole idea around business, right? The idea that anyone can start a business. Every business now is an online business, and everyone has a mission or a vision or a dream that they're trying to reach. And we just really wanted to help more people have access to that, right? At this space we're in now, like building a business or launching a business is literally at your fingertips, right? The access to resources to do that are there, and it's just now we're opening that up to everyone. And this is kind of shedding light on that. I mean, there's so many other details within it, in that, but this is really shedding light on how more people can gain access to the dream that they've always wanted.
The resources are there, but how do you even begin to navigate them and use them appropriately? I'm sure, Darren, you can really speak to that because you've navigated it exceedingly well.
You know, we've navigated it, but I'm an insider, and it's different from that perspective. And I think what Laurel and Jose have done with this conference is they've really put together a program that's designed to educate companies that are not insiders, retail investors that haven't been exposed to investing online. And, you know, we talked about this the other day on set. It's intimidating. If you've never invested into a company, doing it for the first time feels a little bit scary and nerve-wracking and intimidating to the point that it might actually deter you from even trying. And so making this industry more accessible, more approachable, providing knowledge and education and information is absolutely critical. And so what I think Laurel and Jose have done is they've brought together all the experts who are insiders, who understand the mechanics of equity crowdfunding from the company standpoint. What is that experience like as a founder to go pursue an online capital raise, but also keeping in mind the perspective of the investor, right? Because without retail investors, there is no industry.
Right.
And so that's why I'm so excited to be a co-host with you and to really get the word out, because people need to know how this industry works, how they can take advantage of it, and investors need to know how to evaluate deals and how to actually participate in offerings that might be of interest to them.
calculate those risks.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's just an evolution, right? There's so much change that is happening now in just the world in general. And when we look at the different ways that you can get access to this capital, I think that one of the conversations that we had was just around how to get that education to people. I mean, I've been in 4 different Ubers for the last week or so, right? And none of those Uber drivers knew what equity crowdfunding was. And it felt good for me to explain to them what it was about and how it gives them the ability to make a prosperity future for themselves in doing this and getting a part of it and learning about it.
So fans, you're not alone. There are other people who aren't familiar with this term equity crowdfunding. So Darren, break it down for the fans watching. In your words, what is equity crowdfunding? Equity
crowdfunding in its simplest form is a way for founders to raise capital for their businesses by selling securities to investors. Right, so as a legal contract, they're selling either ownership in the form of equity, they could be selling debt, you can raise capital through convertible notes, but you are selling securities. And so we've seen that, I don't know, over the past 10, 15 years, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, those were kind of the original types of crowdfunding. Those are platforms that are referred to as rewards-based crowdfunding. You give a creator $100 and you get a movie ticket and a t-shirt.
Some perks and one-of-a-kind experiences like you get on Fanvestor. I see where you're going.
Exactly. And so that was really an important precedent for equity crowdfunding because now the industry's evolved from rewards to equity. And what's so interesting about it is that the companies that do these campaigns have a lot of flexibility to set the terms of their offering, which ultimately means that founders retain greater ownership and control of their businesses. They can allow their customers, fans, and followers to become part owners. So they're creating an army of brand ambassadors in the process. And it's exciting for the retail investor who, up until 6 years ago, 80 years prior, had been locked out of investing into high growth, promising startups, which is where all the wealth is created, right? All the seed investors in Amazon, they're multi-billionaires. But as a retail investor, you had to wait until the company went public. And then you had to hold on for your shares for another 20 years to really earn some outsized returns. So this industry is really a game changer for both the companies that want to find an easier way to raise capital for their businesses, and it's a game changer for the investor who now has an opportunity. This is an everyday American. It's also a retail investor outside the US. So anyone over the age of 18 globally can participate in these offerings. It's really a win-win for both.
And there's 2 pieces in it that he really spoke to, right? One of those pieces is equity, right? And what does that really mean? What does that mean to a startup founder? What does that mean to a business, right? A restaurant, right? There's so many people who were affected during the pandemic. What does that mean to them to be able to come and do this, but getting the knowledge to do it? But the biggest piece, again, is equity, right? What does that mean to the everyday American? Everyday person who now has the ability to invest in the company pre-IPO,
to
right?
get in on it.
Right. It's not even just that term of equity. It's now that they early on now have a seat at the table, right? Where normally you wouldn't have a seat at the table because of the regulations and everything behind it. Now these individuals can look at it and say, oh, I don't have to only rely on my 401k now. I can invest early on and have a piece of something and create, again, that financial prosperity that I'm looking for. And I mean, let's be honest, it's a lot to do with just the culture shift in general. I mean, we've seen riots, we've seen racism, we've seen a huge shift in all those spaces where you also see a lot more investment into Black and brown businesses, Latinx businesses, LGBTQ businesses. So for me, as a Black man, as a member of the LGBTQ community, it's important for me to be able to shed light and share with them what they now have access to, right? I didn't have that idea of access before moving here.
So tell me about that moment when you realized you had that opportunity to invest, because that, for me personally, was one of the most powerful, game-changing experiences of my own life. What was that for you?
It was a big shift. I mean, I grew up always wanting and having the idea that I want to be an entrepreneur. A lot of people don't know I started out as an interior designer. I'm really good at interior design. But I didn't know much about capital and raising capital. It took for me in my days of Fortune 500 and seeing, okay, now working in tech companies in LA, oh, these companies are raising money. What does that mean, right? I was at my last company in sales, and they said, oh, they're a pre-seed, they're a seed round. I'm like, we sell seeds too. What are you talking about, right? So, educating myself in that and just reading and on my own was one thing, but being able to get the actual knowledge and research that knowledge is another. And that's a big part of just the fabric of Startup Starter is we're giving people access to everything that's already there for them. We're just bringing it together in a centralized place.
You're giving them the seeds.
There you go.
See what
We're
I did?
planting the seeds. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's
Smooth.
I just want people who look like me, and it's not just to put us in a box, but there's been a lack of that, right? When you're talking about D&I is about having a seat at the table, and now you can create this not only as a startup, but you can create this as an everyday American, middle American as well.
Having a seat at the table feels so damn good.
Yeah.
It is the most empowering.
We're at the table.
Cheers,
right
man.
now.
We're at the table right now. Darren, what was the aha moment for you when you recognized your mission to really democratizing equity crowdfunding and creating this new reality within the business world?
Look, I think the most exciting part about it, from my standpoint, is that it creates a very real opportunity for everyday Americans, everyday retail investors to actually rise up, right? And to generate returns that were traditionally limited for venture capital firms, institutional investors, the wealthy few who had the connections to invest in IPOs or private placements of all these big companies that have gone public and generated billions of dollars in value. Now the little guy can actually get in on the deal. And I want to make a comment about what Laurel said. He's a black man and part of the LGBTQ community. And that's also really an important facet. It's actually a fundamental part of the equity crowdfunding industry. Venture capital as an institution is broken. It is. And it is a old system that needs to be displaced. Venture capitalists discriminate. They discriminate based on a founder's age. They prefer young founders. They discriminate based on a founder's location. You're either in Silicon Valley, Miami, or New York. They discriminate based on race, and gender. So these are truths. I'm not just postulating or guessing. There is a massive amount of evidence that suggests the system is a racist, discriminatory system. And you know what? It's not fixing itself.
Nope.
We're in 2021. So the system needs to be nuked and rebuilt from the ground up. That's actually what's happening here with equity crowdfunding.
Oh, I have chills.
People like Laurel, who are minority founders, female founders, LGBTQ founders, can now access capital that was being prevented, was being limited to them because the VCs want to invest in white male founders who are Stanford dropouts. And these are connected people, okay? The founders that have raised tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, 9 out of 10 of them were connected to somebody. It is absolutely an old boys club. Equity crowdfunding is the opposite. You don't have to be, you don't have to fit that mold. You can actually raise capital from your neighbors, your family, your friends, your customers, the followers you have on Twitter, on LinkedIn. That is democratizing. That's democratizing entrepreneurship, and it gives talented founders the ability to raise capital for their companies and make their dreams come true and create jobs and create GDP, contribute to the GDP. So this industry is a force to be reckoned with. And just like the venture capital industry is broken, this industry, our industry, is growing. And nobody's going to kill it, squash it. It's only going to grow. So what Laurel's doing here is so timely, but I appreciate what you're saying. Like, this is actually the beauty of entrepreneurship. He's solving his own problem. Okay? The system discriminates against him, and he's creating a way to solve for him and others like him. And there's a lot of people like Laurel out there that don't have access to capital because they don't fit the mold. They'll never fit the mold. And now it's changing, and he's providing a pathway for companies to raise capital, founders to achieve their dreams.
And
it's awesome.
For fans and followers to be able to invest. It's that simple. Just like you cast your vote, you can cast your dollar, if you will, in the companies and the founders you believe in. And it's up to the crowd. It's up to the fans to rise together, because that's how we all come up, right? And we now have the chance to use our voice, to use our dollar in that way. 30% of millennial women like me donate every year to different crowdfunding campaigns without expecting anything in return, because we believe in the project. We believe in the passion of that story. Now we can actually get equity in that company, and that is so sexy.
It's awesome.
And let me also say, like, for instance, like he mentioned posturing, right? And anyone who may watch this can see, like, okay, this is another white man talking about how there's things are changing for the Black community or the LGBTQ community. However, like what he's saying is resonating with me, because I've watched you guys host this, right? And just it brought tears to my eyes to see the conversation that was created. And he's taken me under his wing immediately when he heard about putting Equity Crowdfunding Week together. How can I help you? What can we do, right? And so the conversations that I've had with him have resonated to know that like he's a white dude trying to also help make a change and make a difference out here, right? And it also goes back to, like you said, like now you can have equity crowdfunding. It started out with me, like I believed even more in, like, wow, you can do so much from the crowd. My dog had cancer during COVID, broke my pockets. I put out a GoFundMe, right? But now you can do that for your company. You can get to the next milestone faster for building something that people actually believe in, and they will follow you with it.
Absolutely. And Darren, I so appreciate that you recognize the responsibility you have to be able to use your voice and your status and what you've created for yourself, your reputation, to speak to that. And that is so inspiring. So thank you for doing that.
You're very welcome. And it's important. I think this industry defies the odds of traditional capital raising, venture capital, Wall Street. And there are so many individuals out there that have been locked out of the system, yet are talented, creative, have good ideas, have good growing businesses, and we need to help those founders thrive, regardless of race. Whether they're white, black, it doesn't matter. And so what I love about this industry is that it is a colorblind industry, and more women are having success raising capital, more black founders are having success raising capital, and it's exciting to see. And so to be a part of that and to be a supporter, because I'm a supporter, I'm a fan of what Laurel has built here.
Thank you.
Feels good because he's doing the right thing, and it takes courage. And we talked about this before. Laurel's actually an outsider, right? He's not I'm an insider. I've been in this industry literally since day one, since the moment companies could raise capital online. And I think part of the reason Laurel is having such success with Equity Crowdfunding Week is because of the fact that he is actually an outsider. And so for someone like me to go out to all these companies and people, some of these guys think I'm competing with them and that's a threat and they don't want to work with me. But Laurel is neutral, okay? And yet he identified all the platforms, all the broker-dealers, all the law firms, all the compliance firms, all the founders that are having success right now raising capital, and pulled them in. And he did it in a matter of weeks, right? Which tells you that the industry itself is desperate for an event like this. Everyone gravitated to this thing so quickly. It was like a magnet. I mean, he didn't have to try too hard. He's obviously coordinating a lot.
It was a lot.
But the industry, they heard about this, and the mission, the values resonated. And now this thing is about to be the largest event the industry has seen in the history of equity crowdfunding.
So tell us a little bit about the players you brought to the table.
So putting this together, it wasn't about creating dollars or creating money towards it. It was very much about how do we tell the story of equity crowdfunding, where it's at today, where it's going, what does the future look like for equity crowdfunding, but not the industry itself, but for everyone, right? So when I started aligning the programming, I aligned the programming from day one all the way to day 5 to start out with telling the story of people. We're talking about people like me. We're talking about democratizing the private markets. We're talking about all those things. And within that is also discussing how can you do this, and also shedding light on the people who have done it successfully, right? And then of course you're going to bring the industry together. It's just the natural thing to do. And that's what we did, but we didn't focus on saying, hey, we're going to bring them together so that we can shed light on these companies, we're going to drive all these leads to them. No, our whole idea is staying true to who we are when it comes to democratizing entrepreneurship for starter. And it helps our brand, and it helps us be able to share with people how now in one place you can get everything, but like we can do that based on industries. This is not our first conference that we've done. It will not be our last, right? And we'll do more in the equity crowdfunding space. But again, it's about bringing it all together.
And you couldn't have done it all without some of the sponsors.
Oh, absolutely
including
not.
Issuance,
yeah,
Darren.
Yeah, Issuance has been great. I mean, this is a podcast that we're filming for the conference. I mean, we're talking about Dealmaker, Realpha. Like, these are amazing companies that are putting stuff together. I mean, for marketing, Aurora Project. Like, we are bringing everyone together. And if you notice, the sponsors don't just include the industry; they include the companies who are actively raising an equity crowdfunding to come tell their story. If you want to hear them, their investors want to hear them. The everyday person wants to hear them.
Well, Darren, you've had a front row seat to some of the most incredible stories now that we know you're filming the show Going Public, which is about to be released on Entrepreneur. What can you share with us about that?
Thanks for asking. It's an exciting time because we are 3 weeks out from streaming season 1 of Going Public, and it's really a first of its kind show that follows founders as they're raising capital, and for the first time ever, viewers can click to invest in featured deals while they watch.
I have to stress this to you fans. You can literally click to invest. That is incredible, and that is a first. I mean, the ability for us to cast our vote, not just the text like on American Idol, cast our dollar and invest in a company and get equity, and that is game-changing for you.
And they're really cool companies now.
Really cool.
For real.
Oh, sorry. I passed the mic back to Darren, but I'm just so excited about that.
We're excited too, and you know what we wanted to do is change the way that the investment opportunities were presented to the world. Mm-hmm. For the past 6 years, you know, the investor goes to a landing page, there's a 2-minute pitch video, the deal terms, the business story, and while that model works, it is outdated. And so a campaign you could launch on an equity crowdfunding platform today looks nearly identical to the campaign you would have launched on that same platform 4, 5, 6 years ago. We think that people are motivated by stories. They respond to stories. Humans respond to stories and narratives. And so we're investing millions. We've invested millions into the production of this show to deliver the stories, not just about the investments, but the founders. We want the viewers to get to know the founders, their vision, their mission, their values, to connect with them, and then learn about the business. What do they make? What do they sell? How big is the company? And then the deal, and really in that order. So it's hosted by a young woman named Lauren Simmons. She was the youngest ever female trader on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Total badass, just the second black female trader in their history. So she's an icon in her own right and has shattered glass ceilings in her career. We couldn't be more thrilled to have her host. We've got mentors that come in and coach the founders. Jamie Schmidt, who sold Schmidt's Naturals to Unilever. Jeff Hoffman, who was a founding team member of Priceline.com. Josh Snow, who's sold more than $150 million of his teeth whitening kit. And then the companies themselves, Proven Skincare, which went from 0 to 25 million in sales in 18 months. They're a cosmetics company, direct to consumer. Hammett, which is a $30 million luxury women's leather handbag company. Tony Drockton is the nicest founder. He's flamboyant. He is such a great salesman, product obsessed. And then Treble, which is an audio streaming company. And we've been working on this for 4.5 years. It has not been easy. It's not been fast, but we're now 3 weeks out, and so we can't wait for the world to see.
It's cool. It's really cool, like, to see that's even happening. I think that there's TV, or so much mainstream TV, but like, you guys are taking business to another level by putting this show together, and just shedding so much more light on it.
Thank you.
You're really pioneering. It's so incredible, and it's such an honor to be a part of this conversation. You know, at Fanvestor, our mission is to invest with heart, and on every podcast, I ask our guests, what's the best investment they've ever made? Now, that doesn't have to be financially. Take it as you will. But what's the best investment you've ever made, Laurel?
For me, the best investment that I always had the idea that I had to buy a house, right? So my best investment where I'm at in my life now would be buying my house, doing it on my own, not needing help to do it. I said I want to buy my first house by the time I'm 30, and at 28 I was doing all the things I needed to do, and while I was 30 I closed on my first property, and now it's a rental property. So
bravo!
Yeah, so I'm excited. It's in Maryland.
Congratulations. Darren, what's the best investment you've ever made?
So I gave you one answer last time, which was about a company and went public. I'm going to give you a different answer this time because you just framed it a little differently. The best investment I've ever made was in my relationship with my wife, who's been an incredible partner to me. And if I think about why I've been able to spread my wings as a founder, all the shit I've gone through and the failure and the drama and like the money running out and loans and credit card debt, had it not been for her, I wouldn't be here. And so her support of me as a person, as a partner, has been priceless, more valuable than anything I've done in the business world for sure.
Oh,
That's powerful.
Thank you.
You should say it right into the
Yeah.
camera. Tell her, you know what I'm saying?
oh, thank you. It takes a village, and I am so grateful for your honesty in that, as I'm sure your wife is too. They often say your network is your net worth. Clearly, we know who's the star of your network, but who in your network has really made an incredible impact on you? Who would you say is your mentor, and what have you learned from them?
And I wouldn't even call my mentor. My life has changed significantly through the pandemic. I fell in love during the pandemic. I have a 2-year-old that's around me, and just when you look at the innocence of that person, it takes you to a whole other place and gives you more to live towards, right? And just coming into this space, I look to that right now. I think that's my thing right now. I just I want to spend time with this little guy. It's my partner's child, but I want to spend time with him, and he helps me just kind of ease my day. So it's an escape for me. So I'll do that. And then, I love working with my business partner. We're really combining ideas of how we can help even more and really push this. We're working on creating the number one place that you can go to learn business education. Right now, if you want to learn business education, where are you going? If you're a kid who is coming out of high school and you don't want to go to college, where are you going to learn to create this business for yourself? And so now you can come and do that and get all the resources and tools and education that you need, but in a cool, very cinematic way, and be able to stream it by sitting on your couch. How could you not learn better by pulling up the couch?
Business education on demand. He's
On
got you.
On demand. We got you.
It's really incredible. I know that my net worth has just been, 10x'd by knowing the both of you.
You didn't answer the question, though.
And by being a part of.
Yeah, we got to ask you.
You didn't answer.
My network? This is what I'm saying, is that literally it's been 10x because of being a part of this event. Meeting the both of you has been incredibly inspiring, and the other founders and game changers that are part of Equity Crowdfunding Week, the team at Fanvestor, for their incredible support. I know that my self-worth, the worth of my business, has been impacted so positively. So thank you to the both of you.
Yeah. You do that on set,
yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. Please remind the fans where they can continue to find, follow, and of course support the both of you and Equity Crowdfunding Week.
Absolutely. Go to www.equitycrowdfundingweek.com. You can also find everything you need to know about Startup Starter at startupstarter.co. And we hope to see you on the conference.
Goingpublic.com. That's the series that streams on Entrepreneur. I'm also the CEO of Issuance, issuance.com, and follow me on Twitter.
That's right. Keep it here, fans. We'll be back with more on the Fanvestor Report.